Welcome, curious minds, to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something huge, something we experience every second, but maybe don't question enough: time itself. I'm your guide on this journey, and with me, as always, is the expert mind who helps us navigate these complex ideas.
It's great to be here. And yeah, time, it feels so straightforward, doesn't it? Just this relentless tick-tock, one moment after another. Calendars, deadlines, the past slipping away, the future arriving. It's how we structure everything in our modern lives.
Absolutely. It's so baked into our thinking, this linear path, that suggesting it might be something else feels, well, almost absurd, like questioning gravity.
Right. It governs work, our personal stories, everything. But that's the core question for today, isn't it? What if this feeling, this constant forward march, isn't the whole picture? What if it's more, I don't know, a construct, a useful illusion?
Exactly. What if ancient wisdom and, cutting-edge physics are hinting at something far stranger, something more fluid, maybe cyclical, or even layered?
Or maybe even something that only exists because we observe it. That's the territory we're stepping into.
It promises to be quite the trip. We're going to dig into some mind-bending science. From Einstein to quantum weirdness, we'll look at how ancient cultures saw time completely differently, explore how our own minds warp it, and even touch on ideas like, well, are we living in a simulation?
Yeah, get ready to stretch those assumptions about reality. We're starting with the science that first really cracked open that linear view, then plunging into quantum mechanics where things get truly bizarre. Think particles influencing the past, spooky connections across space.
Okay, wow.
Then we'll bring it back to us, our psychology. Déjà vu, dreams, near-death experiences, how subjective time really is.
And then broaden out again to those ancient cycles, simulation theory.
Exactly. And wrap it up with some big philosophical head-scratchers. What does it all mean for us, for free will, for reality itself?
Okay, let's dive in. Where does the scientific challenge to linear time really begin? I guess it has to be Einstein, right?
Definitely. Beforehand, the picture was pretty simple. Isaac Newton's universe had this absolute clock ticking away uniformly everywhere for everyone. Time was just time, unchanging, universal.
A constant backdrop to everything else.
Precisely. But Einstein, with his theories of special and general relativity, just completely overturned that. He showed time isn't absolute. It's relative. It actually changes. It can stretch. It can slow down. And it depends on two key things: how fast you're moving and how strong the gravity is around you.
So it's not just a perception, it's physically different.
Yes, it's interwoven with space into this single entity called space-time. And this space-time fabric isn't rigid. It's flexible. It can be warped.
Okay, let's unpack the speed part first. If you're going really, really fast.
Time literally slows down for you compared to someone who's stationary or moving much slower. It's called time dilation.
The classic example is the twin paradox, isn't it?
Yeah.
One twin zooms off near light speed, comes back, and they're younger than the twin who stayed home.
Exactly. And while we don't travel that fast, the effect is real and measurable. Think about GPS satellites.
Right, you mentioned those. How does relativity affect my phone's map?
Well, those satellites are orbiting Earth incredibly fast, something like 14,000 kilometers an hour. So from our perspective down here, their clocks actually tick slightly slower due to their speed.
Okay, that's special relativity.
But there's also general relativity gravity's effect. Because the satellites are further away from Earth's center, they experience slightly weaker gravity than we do. And weaker gravity means time ticks slightly faster for them compared to us on the ground.
So you have two competing effects: speed slowing time down, weaker gravity speeding it up.
That's right. And scientists have to calculate both effects very precisely. The net result is that the satellite clocks actually run slightly faster than ground clocks. It's tiny microseconds per day.
But it matters.
Oh, absolutely. If engineers didn't constantly correct for this relativistic time difference, the tiny errors would accumulate rapidly. Your GPS would be off by kilometers within a single day.
Wow, so my ability to find the nearest coffee shop relies on the fact that time isn't universal. That's kind of amazing.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's physics impacting everyday technology. And then there's the gravity side, which gets even more extreme.
Like near black holes.
Exactly. Imagine being near the event horizon of a black hole, the point of no return. The gravity there is immense. For an observer hovering just outside, if that were possible, time would slow down dramatically compared to someone far away.
So I might experience minutes, but back on Earth.
Eons could pass. Millennia. Entire civilizations could rise and fall in the outside universe while you experience just a short period. Time nearly grinds to a halt from the outside perspective.
Because gravity is warping space-time itself that much.
Yes, it's stretching time like taffy. And again, this isn't just theory. Even astronauts on the International Space Station age just a tiny fraction slower than us.
Why? Both speed and gravity again.
Yep. They're moving fast, which slows their time slightly, but they're also in slightly weaker gravity, which speeds it up a bit. The net effect is a minuscule slowing. Proven science. Measurable.
So relativity really shattered that idea of a single cosmic clock. Time is flexible.
Fundamentally flexible. And that opened the door to even stranger ideas, like the block universe.
Okay, the block universe. This one always feels heavy. Explain it again. Time isn't flowing.
That's the core idea. Instead of a river carrying us along, imagine all of time, every single moment, from the Big Bang to the end of the universe, if there's one existing simultaneously. It's like a giant four-dimensional block of space-time. Every event, past, present, future, is just there, a point within the block.
So my breakfast this morning, this conversation right now, and what I'll do tomorrow afternoon, they all exist equally right now in this block.
According to this model, yes. All moments are equally real, already laid out.
I feel so counterintuitive. We feel time passing. We feel like we're moving from past to future.
And the block universe theory says that feeling that sense of flow is an illusion created by our consciousness. Our awareness is like a spotlight moving across this block, illuminating one slice of time after another, creating the experience of progression.
The film reel analogy, right? All the frames exist on the reel at once.
But the projector, our consciousness, only shows one frame at a time.
Yeah.
That creates the movie, the sense of movement and change.
The implication is huge, though. It suggests determinism, that the future is already fixed.
That's the most profound and, for many, disturbing implication. If the future already exists within the block, then it's not something we're actively creating. It's something our consciousness is simply encountering.
So free will.
It becomes very problematic, at least in the way we usually think about it. Are we making choices, or are we just playing out a pre-written script embedded in the block? It doesn't mean we don't feel like we have free will, but the theory questions whether that feeling reflects the underlying reality.
Okay. Deep breath. From the block universe to something much newer. Time crystals. This sounds like science fiction. What are they?
They're definitely weird and quite a recent discovery, first confirmed experimentally around 2016. Think about a normal crystal, like salt or a diamond.
Okay, atoms arranged in a repeating pattern in space.
Right. A time crystal is analogous, but the pattern repeats in time. Its atoms or components oscillate, changing from one state to another and back again in a regular rhythm.
Like a clock ticking.
Sort of. But here's the truly bizarre part. They do this in their lowest energy state, their ground state, without any external energy input driving the oscillation.
Wait, doesn't everything naturally settle into its lowest energy state and stop moving? Like a pendulum eventually stops swinging without a push.
Thermodynamics, right?
Entropy.
Exactly. That's what makes them so revolutionary. They seem to defy the tendency towards thermal equilibrium, where everything just settles down into a static state. A time crystal keeps ticking perpetually without needing to be wound or powered, because that repeating temporal pattern is its natural ground state.
So it's a system with inherent periodicity in time, just like a regular crystal has periodicity in space.
Precisely. It's a macroscopic system demonstrating that repeating structures can exist inherently in the time dimension, not just the spatial ones. It's physical proof of a kind of nonlinear temporal structure, a self-sustaining rhythm built into the fabric of this particular matter.
A clock that doesn't need winding because ticking is its lowest energy state.
Oh.
Wow. Okay.
It fundamentally challenges some old assumptions about how systems reach equilibrium. It's a physical manifestation that time might have its own intrinsic complex structures.
All right, if relativity and time crystals weren't enough, let's head into the quantum realm. You said this is where linear time really gets messy.
Oh, absolutely. Welcome to quantum weirdness. Let's start with entanglement, Einstein's spooky action at a distance.
Right. Two particles linked no matter how far apart.
Exactly. Imagine two electrons created together in a specific way. They become entangled. If you measure the spin of one electron, say, its spin up, you instantly know the other electron, wherever it is, will be spin down.
Instantly. Even if it's light years away.
Instantly. Faster than light. There's no time for a signal to travel between them saying, hey, I'm spin up, you be spin down. Their fates are linked in a way that seems to transcend space and time as we normally conceive them.
So that breaks the cosmic speed limit, light speed, and causality, cause and effect.
It certainly seems to. How can measuring particle A cause particle B to instantly adopt the opposite state miles away. It suggests either information is traveling faster than light, which relativity forbids,
Or what?
or that the particles aren't truly separate entities in the way we think. They might be part of a single unified system that exists outside our normal spatial and temporal framework, a non-local connection.
A deeper level of reality where distance doesn't matter.
That's one interpretation. It hints that our understanding of space, time, and separation might be incomplete.
Okay, spooky indeed. What about retrocausality? The future influencing the past. That sounds even wilder.
It is wild, and definitely more speculative and debated among physicists. But yes, certain interpretations of some quantum experiments suggest that what happens to a particle later, like how you choose to measure it, could influence its properties or behavior earlier.
Like how? Give me an analogy.
Imagine rolling a bowling ball. Retrocausality would be like the ball somehow knowing it's going to hit the front pin before you release it, and that future event subtly influences the path it takes now.
That makes my head hurt. It completely reverses cause and effect.
It does. It fundamentally challenges the arrow of time, the idea that the past influences the present, which influences the future, in that strict order. If retrocausality is real, even in subtle quantum ways, then that arrow might be more of a two-way street.
Is there any experimental basis for this, or is it pure theory?
There are experiments, like Wheeler's delayed choice experiment, that are often cited in this context. They are incredibly counterintuitive.
Okay, Wheeler's delayed choice. Break that one down simply, if possible.
I'll try. Imagine sending a single particle, like a photon, towards a splitter. It can either go one way or the other.
Like a fork in the road.
Right. Now, quantum mechanics says particles can also behave like waves, meaning they could potentially take both paths simultaneously.
The wave-particle duality thing.
Exactly. The weird part is, you can decide after the photon has passed the splitter whether you want to set up your detectors to see which single path it took, like a particle, or to see if it interfered with itself, which would mean it took both paths, like a wave.
You decide after it supposedly chose its path.
Yes. And the results seem to show that your choice of measurement now determines whether the photon acted like a particle or a wave back when it passed the splitter.
So observing it now changes what it did in the past.
That's the mind-bending implication. Your measurement choice seems to reach back in time and influence the photon's past behavior. It challenges the idea of a fixed, objective past that exists independently of observation.
Is it saying consciousness changes the past?
That's one philosophical leap people sometimes make. At minimum, it suggests that the act of measurement, the way we interact with the quantum world, is deeply intertwined with its reality, perhaps even across time. The past might not be as concrete and unchangeable as we assume.
Okay, quantum mechanics is definitely shattering my sense of linear time. Let's shift gears a bit. What about our own minds? Our subjective experience?
Absolutely. Because even without invoking quantum physics, our everyday psychology shows time isn't always a steady clock. Think about déjà vu.
That weird feeling of I've been here before. Yeah, everyone gets that sometimes.
It's so uncanny, isn't it? The standard explanation is usually some kind of neurological blip, a slight delay in processing information, making a new experience feel like a memory.
Like your brain files it under old memories by mistake for a split second.
Right, but the feeling can be so powerful, so specific. Could it be something more? A momentary bleed-through from another timeline, a glitch in perceived reality, a subconscious recognition of a pattern.
It certainly feels like more than just a memory error sometimes. It's unsettling.
And then there are precognitive dreams, people dreaming about events, sometimes quite specific and unusual ones, before they happen.
Anecdotally, you hear these stories all the time. Someone dreams of a relative calling with specific news, and then it happens the next day.
Exactly. While it's incredibly hard to study scientifically, confirmation bias, vague predictions, coincidences are all issues. The persistence and cross-cultural nature of these accounts are fascinating.
So could the dreaming mind, being less constrained by linear logic, somehow tap into future information, echoes from what's coming?
It's a provocative thought. Maybe consciousness isn't strictly bound by the present moment when it's in certain states, like dreaming. Perhaps can perceive probabilities or potentials in a way waking consciousness cannot.
And what about near-death experiences? Those seem to involve extreme time distortions.
Hugely so. One of the most common features reported by people who've had NDEs is a radical change in their perception of time.
The classic life flashing before your eyes.
That's one aspect. People report seeing their entire lives, or significant chunks of it, replay in what feels like an instant. Or, conversely, experiencing a sense of timelessness, an eternity of peace or being, in what was objectively only minutes or seconds of clinical death or unconsciousness.
Time stopping, slowing down, speeding up.
Or even feeling like past, present, and future are all accessible simultaneously. It strongly suggests that our normal waking perception of linear time is a specific mode of consciousness, perhaps one necessary for survival in the physical world.
But not the only way consciousness can experience temporality.
Exactly. When the brain is in these extreme states, it seems capable of experiencing time in profoundly different, nonlinear ways, maybe closer to how it really is outside our usual filters.
And even in everyday life, time feels subjective, right?
Absolutely. Think about it when you're in danger or bored or waiting anxiously. Seconds can feel like hours. Time drags.
Definitely. Waiting for test results.
Mhm.
Torture.
But when you're completely absorbed in something you love, a creative project, a great conversation, playing music, intense sport, that's the flow state.
Right. And hours can just disappear. You look up and it's dark outside and you have no idea where the time went.
Exactly. Time flies when you're having fun, as the saying goes. This constant, everyday elasticity of our subjective time perception really hammers home the point. Our experience of time isn't rigidly fixed to an external clock.
Our state of mind, our focus, our emotions, they all seem to modulate how we experience time's passage.
Which strongly suggests consciousness isn't just a passive recipient of time, but an active participant in shaping how it's felt and perceived.
So moving beyond the individual mind, what about different cultures? Did everyone always think of time as a straight line?
Not at all. The linear view, beginning, middle, end, progress, is actually quite specific, often linked to Western Abrahamic traditions with a creation story and an apocalypse or final judgment. Many other cultures had very different ideas.
Like cyclical time.
Yes, very prominently. In Hinduism and Buddhism, for instance, time is often conceived as a great wheel or cycle. You have the concept of yugas. In Hinduism, vast cosmic ages, lasting millions or billions of years, that cycle through creation, flourishing, decay, and dissolution, only to begin again.
A universe that endlessly renews itself.
And within that, you have reincarnation, and the individual soul cycling through lifetimes, learning and evolving, trying to break free from the wheel of samsara, the cycle of birth and death. Time isn't a line, it's a recurring pattern, a cosmic rhythm.
And the Maya, they were famous for their calendars.
Incredibly sophisticated calendars. They didn't just track linear time, they tracked multiple interwoven cycles. Solar cycles, lunar cycles, the cycle of Venus, the long count spanning thousands of years. It was like nested gears.
So they saw time as layers of repeating patterns.
Very much so. Time wasn't just quantity, it had quality. Certain periods would recur, bringing similar energies or possibilities. It was a much more complex, interconnected, cyclical understanding, deeply tied to observing the cosmos. Time spiraled. It didn't just march forward.
That's fascinating. And what about the idea of everything repeating, eternal recurrence?
Yes. That idea pops up in various forms, but it was explored powerfully by the ancient Greek Stoics and later, famously, by the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche.
This is the idea that this exact life, with every single detail, will repeat infinitely.
Precisely. Every joy, every sorrow, every thought, every act's exactly the same over and over forever. An exact replay.
Wow. That's a lot to take in. What's the point?
Yeah.
Or the implication?
It's a profound thought experiment. Would you know you're repeating? Probably not. But Nietzsche used it as a challenge. Could you affirm your life, embrace it totally, knowing you'd have to live it again and again, exactly as it is?
So it becomes a test of how you live this moment.
Exactly. If you knew this moment would repeat eternally, would you live it differently? Would you strive to make it a moment you could joyfully will to repeat forever? It forces an intense focus on the present and the value of this life, this choice. For some, it's terrifying. For others, strangely liberating.
From ancient cycles to a very modern, maybe unsettling idea. Simulation theory.
Right. This is the 21st century version of questioning reality. The idea that our entire universe, everything we experience, might be a highly advanced computer simulation created by some other intelligence.
Like we're characters in The Sims, but infinitely more complex.
Pretty much. And if that's the case, what does it mean for time?
Well, time might just be part of the program, like the clock speed of the cosmic computer running the simulation, or just how the simulation renders events sequentially for us.
Exactly. Time wouldn't be a fundamental property of reality itself, but an emergent feature of the simulation's code. Maybe it's necessary for the simulation to work, to create believable cause and effect for the simulated beings like us.
Could this explain weird glitches, like the Mandela effect?
That's one speculative connection people make. The Mandela effect, where large groups misremember historical facts or details, like thinking Nelson Mandela died in prison, or the spelling of the Berenstain Bears.
Like Berenstain versus Berenstain.
Could these shared false memories be tiny bugs in the simulation's code? Moments where the simulation's history file got slightly corrupted or patched, leaving traces of a previous version in our collective memory.
It's a wild thought, but it fits the simulation model, doesn't it? It implies our past might not be as stable or singular as we think.
It definitely opens up bizarre possibilities about the nature of our reality and our timeline, suggesting they might be more malleable or artificial than we imagine.
Okay, so we've looked at science, psychology, culture, even simulations. Let's try to tie some threads together with those mind-bending thought experiments you mentioned. Where do these ideas leave us?
Well, let's start with that idea of cycles and recurrence. If time isn't strictly linear, could we actually be stuck in a loop, living the same life or variations of it over and over without knowing?
Like Groundhog Day, but maybe on a cosmic scale, or even just our individual lives repeating. If we don't remember the previous loops, we just make the same choices again.
Exactly. The lack of memory is key. But again, think about the implication from Nietzsche's perspective. If this were true, wouldn't it add immense weight to every single moment?
Yeah, if this moment is one you'll experience infinitely, you'd better make it count, or at least learn to love it. It becomes the ultimate motivation for living with presence and intention.
Definitely. Then let's revisit the block universe and free will. If the future already exists as part of this fixed block,
Then is our sense of choosing our path just an illusion? Are we just tracing a line through a pre-existing map?
that's the core challenge to determinism. It feels like we made choices, but if the outcome is already there in the block, were those choices ever truly free in the sense of creating a new future?
It really forces you to reconsider what choice even means. Maybe it's about how we experienced the journey, even if the destination is set.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
Or maybe our understanding of the block is too simplistic, but it certainly puts free will under serious pressure.
Okay, third point. Do we actually move through time, or is it just our perception?
Right. We feel time flowing forwards, the arrow of time. But is that flow fundamental to the universe, or is it a product of our consciousness, our way of processing information sequentially?
Like the block universe idea suggests maybe all moments are equally real, and our consciousness just experiences them one after another.
Yes, or think back to the subjective experience. Our perception of time speeds up and slows down. Could it be that time itself isn't flowing at all, but our perception is creating that sense of movement?
The ocean analogy you used earlier, time is the vast, still ocean, and our awareness is a boat sailing on the surface, only seeing one point at a time.
Exactly. The movement is in the perception, not necessarily in the ocean itself. From a hypothetical higher dimensional view, the entire ocean exists simultaneously. Our forward progression is just our limited sequential way of experiencing that totality.
Which leads to the most radical idea, what if time isn't fundamental at all?
What if time is entirely a function of consciousness? That without a conscious observer to perceive change and sequence, there simply is no time as we understand it.
Echoing some mystical or non-dual philosophies, ultimate reality being timeless, and our minds create the illusion of past, present, future.
Precisely. In this view, time is a conceptual framework we impose on a fundamentally timeless, unified reality to make sense of it, to navigate it. When consciousness transcends its usual limits in deep meditation, perhaps, or those NDE states, the experience of time dissolves into an eternal now,
So time isn't out there, it's in here, generated by us.
or at least co-created by the interaction between consciousness and whatever underlying reality exists. It's a profound shift in perspective from time being the container for reality to consciousness being the source of time.
These are definitely not easy ideas. They push against everything our daily lives tell us.
Absolutely. There are no simple answers here. We're at the edge of physics, philosophy, and neuroscience, grappling with the deepest mysteries.
But the act of grappling, of asking these questions, is valuable in itself, isn't it?
I think so. It forces us to examine our assumptions, to be open to the possibility that reality is far stranger and more wonderful than our common sense allows. It expands our view of the cosmos and our place within it.
So the next time you check your watch, or feel a moment slipping away, or remember something from years ago, maybe pause.
Yeah, just for a second,
Uh,
and ask yourself, what if?
what if time isn't this straight relentless river? What if it's more like a vast ocean, a repeating cycle, a cosmic dance, a block of infinite moments, or even something woven by thought itself?
The mystery endures. And honestly, isn't the exploration the exciting part? Always pushing the boundaries of what we think we know.
It absolutely is. Thank you for guiding us through this temporally challenging deep dive today. It's certainly given us a lot to think about.
My pleasure. It's a topic that never fails to bend the mind.
We hope it stretched your understanding, too. Keep questioning, keep exploring that fabric of reality.
Until next time, keep pondering what lies beyond the ticking clock.